Welcome to the Marketing Mortgages Social for Brokers podcast. Today, we're going to be focusing on an extremely powerful tool, one that can utilize something that you already have sat there and waiting to be worked, and that's marketing to your email list. So to show you how powerful this is, I have got Karen, who is a partner and marketing director from New Homes Advice, and they use email marketing to generate over 17.5% of their new leads, and she's kindly agreed to come on and give us some top tips on how to get started, how to engage your clients, and most importantly, how to turn them into appointments. Now, Karen has been a marketer within the financial services industry for a while and actually worked at Countrywide at the same time as me a few years ago. So it's great to have an ex-colleague on the podcast. So Karen, welcome on.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Thanks for popping on. Now, we had a bit of a IT before we jumped on here.
We did.
We tried a few different recording bits of software. So we're doing this on Teams now. So
we got there in the end.
Yeah, the audio quality is good for everybody listening. So before we get into talking about email marketing, Karen, I like to give the listeners a bit of a background as to who you are, where you've been, and how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I've worked in financial services for over 20 years and always worked in marketing. So I came straight out of uni and I started life in banking, actually at Royal Bank of Scotland. And I kind of blagged my way into my first marketing role. It was quite difficult to get back in marketing when you're straight out of uni because you don't have much experience. It's really competitive to get into. So I kind of blagged my way into the role and I worked at RBS for about 5 years. Absolutely loved it. Thought I was going to stay there for the rest of my life. It was just back then, I loved it and I was really happy. It was final salary pension. I thought, this is it. Nice. I'm going to work my way up and I'm going to retire here. Anyway, unfortunately, I was made redundant there. They kind of got rid of a load of the marketing team at the same time. And that was a bit of a shock because I was quite young and, I'd never experienced anything like that before. But I picked myself back up and I thought, right, let's go and see what else is out there. There must be more to life than just banking. But I quite enjoyed financial services, so I sort of continued down that route. I worked at a number of different sort of financial companies. And then I ended up working at Paragon in Solihull for a lender.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of where I first got involved with mortgages. And it's quite interesting because that was seeing it from the other side. So I was actually doing the marketing towards brokers, whereas now I am obviously on the broker side. So I started to learn about the networks and setting all the rates and things. So that was quite interesting. I actually left there and went back into banking and went to Barclays. And that was, again, really interesting role. Fantastic. I learnt a lot there and actually left there and went to Countrywide, which is where our paths crossed.
Yeah.
I worked there for 7 years in total. So worked my way up, got promoted a number of times. I started off looking after branches in the Midlands, like the estate agency side. So I actually didn't really work on the FS, the mortgage side there. It was more on the estate agency side. So that's how we would have become to know each other.
Yeah.
And so I started off quite small, like region, and then it ended up being like nationally across the whole of the country. By the time I left, I was looking after about 1,200 branches, 50 different brands. I was in Glasgow a couple of days a week. I was in London a couple of days a week. Manchester. I was traveling all over the country to all the different brands and absolutely loved it. And I learned so much there and some really fantastic people. And I think if else fails in marketing, I could definitely pick up a career and become an estate agent.
Because you knew it inside out.
Yeah, and working with so many different, some of the best estate agents across the country. So that's my backup plan. And so COVID then hit, and I was actually loved working at Countrywide, and I wasn't planning on leaving. And then I got approached by New Homes Mortgage Services, where I work now, to come and set up a marketing department. So my
Hmm.
husband actually works there, and that was kind of the connection.
Right.
And Stuart, the managing director, approached me and said, we'd love you to come and set up a marketing function. So it was a complete new challenge for me, really, and a
Hmm.
really exciting opportunity, and one that I couldn't turn down.
Yeah.
So I'd gone from working from a massive marketing teams, 100 odd people, 50 odd people in all the banks and things, having a team beneath me, to then going to New Homes and just being myself and setting it all up from scratch. So
Nice.
it was really a case of like rewinding the years, going back to the basics really, and just setting the whole marketing strategy up there. Um, and also at that time, I just had my first son,
Hmm.
and COVID had hit, and I just knew that my job at Countrywide wasn't going to suit my lifestyle moving forward. I couldn't continue doing all the traveling around and things.
Hmm.
So actually, it really came, it was like fate. It just came at the right time. And I just took it and thought, yeah, let's go there and try it. And I've been there for just over 3 years now, 3.5 years. And it was definitely the right decision. I absolutely love it.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I've set up the marketing department there, uh, did the strategy, um, I've refreshed the brand. We've got a completely new website, material set up, and I know we're going to talk about it shortly. But the whole marketing, communications strategy to the customers, and all the email campaigns and things. So yeah, it's been really really
That's really
exciting few
interesting.
years.
I didn't realize you were in financial services marketing for 20 years when
Yeah,
we were chatting off the podcast and you said 20 years and I thought that was just marketing, but it's very rare to have somebody that has been in marketing in financial services for that long because you've obviously seen how things have developed and you've been part of the big corporates, but
yeah,
then you've been part of the, not that
smaller
New Homes
firms. Yeah,
Advice is a startup, but a smaller company, but it means you could have a lot more impact, I find. And
yes,
perfect
definitely.
example, we were laughing about this when we spoke the other week. When I started at Dixon's estate agent, I think within the first couple of weeks, I'd set up all their social channels and said, it'd be really good. We need to be hyper local. We need to promote
Yeah,
ourselves within Northfield was the area. And I remember getting an email from the marketing department, which was
it's
Karen, which
probably me. Yeah,
yeah, didn't
taking you
realize,
off.
put two and two together. And Karen was like, and it wasn't Karen's fault. Karen was like, look, we've been told HR have said you've got to shut down
Yeah,
all the social channels. And it's funny now, what's 10 years on,
yeah,
2024 now, I started in 2014. All of the branches now have a local page.
I
So
do.
it's
Yeah.
funny, but that's what happens with corporate companies. It's quite hard to make those kind of big decisions
Decisions, yeah.
at a
The
local
strategy
level.
you set at the higher level,
Yeah,
isn't it? And you just
exactly.
have to sort of embed
You
that
have to
as you go
adhere to it.
down.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's great for, as you said, being at New Homes Advice. You have full control of it, of course, and
yeah,
you can do things like the email marketing, which we're going to about today. And you can be a lot more flexible with the approach. If you wanted to
yeah,
send an email out to all of your clients with some photos of the team and a bit of a fun email, you could do that. It doesn't need to go
that's
through
it.
10 levels to be signed off. And then by the time it goes out, it's almost not relevant anymore.
That's it. So to put it in a bit of perspective for people, when I worked at Barclays, we'd be working a year in advance on email. We would
Wow.
write an email copy for a year in advance. And times change, and especially within the mortgage industry and property industry, what's happening now is not what is going to be
Yeah.
happening. Maybe even in a month's time, a few weeks'
Mm.
time, it changes so rapidly. So to plan that far ahead is very difficult.
It's
And
quite
yeah,
tough. Yeah.
it's tough. Yeah.
You almost need to guess it. And that's exactly the same with social media. You can't plan your content 3, 4 months in advance.
No.
You have to be every month
Yeah, that's
and
it.
try and react to the topical things that are going on in the world, like the Bank of England base rate or
Of course, yeah.
income multipliers increase. But anyway, we're here to talk about email marketing. So, email marketing, what do you use it for, Karen? What do you email people about? How do you use it?
So we've got quite a complex automated email strategy set up. And don't get me wrong, that hasn't happened overnight. That's taken, some good few years to set up. But I kind of split my emails into two different things really. So firstly, transactional emails, and they're the kind of day-to-day emails that we send out, and not just myself, but other people are sending out as well. But we have like various templates set up for people. And transactional emails can also cover things like mortgage reminders, if a rate's coming to an end, or protection review. I don't necessarily always see those as like a marketing email,
Okay.
because if we don't tell a client that their rate's about to end, and then they go on the higher SVR rate, then that's something that we need to do as a business. It's not necessarily like a marketing kind of campaign. But then on the other side, I have actually got marketing emails, which are campaigns like refer a friend, or if we're doing an offer, and marketing to customers, things like newsletters or updates or talking about new products and things that they might not necessarily need to do right there now and then, but it's something that we want to make them aware of. So it's kind of split into transactional
Okay.
marketing, but it's also split into target audiences as well.
Okay.
So very rarely, probably 4 times a year, I'll do a mass email to majority of our database. So our database, say for example, we've got 50,000 live customers at any one
Wow.
time, with mortgages or protection products. And they might have multiple products and things even so. And I'll do like a quarterly newsletter to those, which will contain things about the market updates, and new products and things that are coming out. And that's a more of a nice branded newsletter, and it's more for brand awareness. We do get leads off the back of it, but that is not the aim of those newsletters. That is more of a, we're here, remember us, we're your broker. You might not need us for 2 years or 5 years, but
Yeah.
just to keep reminding them that we're there. And if they do need us in between, come back to us, don't go to your lender.
That
So it's
and sorry
kind of,
to sorry
yeah,
to interrupt there, Karen. I just want to reiterate that point to people listening, because it you might feel listening to this, email marketing is the way to generate 17.5% of leads, exactly what Karen does. But remember that not every email's purpose is to generate a lead. It's
yeah,
sometimes more to just remind. If you think of them like TV adverts, Sainsbury's never always do an advert talking about the price of their fruit and veg or something,
yeah,
come and buy from us. It's more of, with a family
yeah,
supermarket, and it's reiterate,
brand.
very similar to social media. It's just reminding people that you're there. Your name can drop into their email inbox. So just to, exactly like Karen said there, it's not, some of the emails are not to generate leads, they're more to build that trust, I suppose, aren't
That's
they?
it. Yeah, and before I joined, once a customer had taken out a mortgage product or protection product, they didn't hear from the company again until it was time
Oh
to
wow.
renew. And then the customer would receive a phone call from one of the advisors to say, right, your product's coming to an end. And a lot of the time, the customers would pick up the phone and say, new homes, and it wouldn't remember.
uh,
And so I thought, right, I've got to plug that gap in between when they don't need us, but actually plugging it with some relevant content that they're going to find interesting. So things like market updates, everybody's always interested in property prices and what's happening with the base rates and things like that. Whether you're moving or you're not moving, or you're thinking about moving, or you want to extend, or whatever's happening, people are always interested in that and knowing how much their property's worth. So, but it was just about drip feeding our brand name to them. So when it does come around for them to renew, they'll remember us.
mhm.
And it really has done. And we've definitely seen an increase in our brand
Nice.
awareness, and our marketing campaigns have helped with our retention rates. So we've got that really high now, at about almost pushing 80% with our
Wow.
clients. So
And
that's
all
gone
these
up
little
quite
things
consistently.
are,
They all help, yeah.
yeah,
They
those little
massively
drip
help.
feeding of emails and a bit of social media, and maybe a quarterly update. And
Yeah.
Karen's going to give us a few tips on what to put in your email shortly. But when it comes to the software that you use,
Yes.
suppose what software do you use? And then we'll talk about what software advisors could use? Because I
That's right.
assume you
Yeah.
use something quite all singing, all dancing, don't you?
We do. We've got a software platform called SendGrid, and it's like a Microsoft recommended one.
Mhm.
And luckily on my team, I've got great digital marketing manager, and I've also got some developers as well that work at New Home. So I'm lucky that I have got the ability to automate a lot of our emails. So we've got
Right.
hundreds of emails going out daily, all automated, to all different groups, different reminders. We've got a massive campaign calendar of activity, of what's going out and when and who to, and to make sure that we don't over email the same
Hmm.
people,
Good point.
the same things, because you really got to be careful to not basically annoy somebody and risk that they might unsubscribe. Because if they
Yeah.
unsubscribe from one of my marketing emails, they'll then subscribe. They could potentially unsubscribe from all of the emails. And that means they don't get
Yes.
their transactional emails to tell them when their mortgage is up for their rates coming to an end. So that is one thing that is a real top tip, is to definitely don't over email. Like you wouldn't really with social media, you're posting too much, you're going to annoy people.
Yeah.
There is, certain parameters that you need to put into place with your email marketing as well, so you're not over communicating. Because I know that if I get too many emails from a company, unsubscribe, 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 because I just have enough of it.
Yeah. You
And they've
lose
lost
that
me
trust
then.
straight
Yeah,
away, don't you? They've
yeah,
lost you. So you use that SendGrid, and then when
yes.
you're putting these emails out, what kind of emails do you find get the best results? Is it the quarterly newsletter? Is it something direct? What do you find the best click through rate on emails and booking appointments?
I think some of those transactional emails, things like your appointment booking confirmation and things,
Mhm.
they do get good open rates and things, but they're pretty just standard ones. I think what we find is when we've done email campaigns in the past around mortgage rate check. So I launched a mortgage rate check
Uh,
scheme that we've got running, and I sent that out. Now, what I do is I normally tend to send it to a test audience. So
mhm.
instead of sending it out to, I don't know, say 20,000 customers, for example, I'll just send it to a couple of thousand just to test it. Because if we get a real big response rate from it, the
Oh,
phones will
wow.
start ringing, we'll get loads of emails into the inquiry inbox, and everybody starts panicking because we don't want to let our service levels drop, and
Yeah.
we want to be able to service the customers. So, and also advisors will get lots and lots of inquiries back on some of the emails as well. So I have to make sure that I've also briefed our helpline. I've briefed the
Yeah.
advisors. They know emails are going out. We send a small test out, see what the response rate's like. And if we get a massive response rate, then I'll stagger it over the next couple of weeks. And we won't just send them
Okay.
out back to back. Or if we don't get as big a response as we thought, we'll then send it. Even the quarterly newsletter, I tend to stagger over a few days. It just seems to work better,
Hmm.
because we do get quite a lot of inquiries on the back of some of these
And that's even
emails. They
just
must like the
keeping
content.
keeping
Yeah,
people up to date, isn't it?
that's
That's
it.
a
Yeah,
great way to. I like the way that you split it down because it manages manages people's workload, and you've told everybody
exactly.
that
Yeah.
emails out. So we've talked about how email marketing can benefit people, what software you can use, and what type of emails get the best results. Now, for the listeners that want to get into it, where should somebody start with email marketing? Like, which tools are the easiest to use, would you say?
Yeah, so there's a few really good free tools that you can use. I'd recommend MailChimp is quite a famous one that a lot of people know, and a real good one to use, easy functionality. And also Brevo is another really
Okay.
good one. Now, Brevo does SMS marketing as well, so that is a
Ah,
real good one to look at. Now, with these tools, a free is obviously a free user,
hmm,
which I would recommend people just starting with the free plan, because
hmm.
you with the free plan you'll get some basic templates that often are designed already for you. You can just drop your branding on, maybe your colours and things, and then also you'll get Maybe you'll even maybe get a scheduling system on some of the free plans, so you can
Mhm.
schedule to send them out. You'll also get some basic analytics and an unsubscribe functions. Now, I'd recommend using those first, getting a feel of them, just testing. Don't send like loads out to
Yeah,
everybody like in your first email you send. Even testing to colleagues or family just while you get going.
good point. Yeah.
And then I would recommend, if you start seeing a return on investment and you do start to get some good analytics and lots of more inquiries and leads coming in, then it might be time to upgrade to one of the paid plans.
Hmm.
And again, both of those tools have paid plans. If you get used to them, they're great. So
Yeah.
there's lots of
Mailchimp,
options out there. Yeah.
Mailchimp, we actually use it for another company that we use who's not in this industry, it's in motorhomes, and their free version is up to 500 clients, 500
Yeah.
contact details. You can input them, like you could download the email list from your system and input them as like it's called a CSV file. So anybody
Yes.
listening, like an Excel document. But what I would make sure, and stipulation on this podcast, is make sure you have their through your system that you've ticked the box to say that they're happy for you to contact them. That's a
Contact.
biggie. I'm not going to get us in trouble here. Got to make sure that you've
Yeah.
got their authority to contact them.
That's
And
it.
then
Yeah.
what Mailchimp has as well for the free version, you can have like an opt-in form, so you could put that on your website. So
Yeah.
automatically, people could opt in from your website. It will automatically add them to Mailchimp, and then you can start emailing. But I like the
Emailing.
way that you say maybe email some staff and some colleagues to get used to it because it's
Test
very
it. Yeah.
drag and drop. It's quite easy to use, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And test and learn. We still test and learn. We're
Love
constantly
that.
trying different subject lines, just to see what gets people to open them
Mm,
more. And I think even the content within them, adding videos and things. I know if people are creating content for social, you can drop that into your emails and you can use
mm.
it, top tips and things. I think segmenting your audience is really quite key. So once you get
Okay.
into it, you'll be able to segment your audience. And I think you could segment them simply by customers, those that have got products and with you, and those that haven't actually quite gone ahead yet with products. And you can target them with different types of content, different news things. You could even do
Love
it
that.
like first time buyers, because what I would, the content I'd put in emails to first time buyers will be very different to what I'll do to a remortgage client. And
Hmm.
obviously protection clients, again, completely different content. So when you get your groups, and you can do it by age ranges, you can do it by, I mean, you can get really targeted.
Yeah.
But I think for people that are initially starting out, just a couple of different groups, different
Mhm.
audiences, and then just testing and learning is really the way forward with email marketing.
Like anything, isn't it? If you can
Yep,
analyze, and AI and technology is getting better and better,
it
that
is.
soon you'll be able to say, if I send an email at 8 a.m. on a Friday to somebody between the age of 24 and 36 that had a mortgage at this amount, will get you the
Yeah.
best results. So that's the way that the data's going. So Joe Blogs has set up a MailChimp account. They're ready to send their first email. What should they fill their email with?
So I suppose you could do all sorts of things really. If people have already got content for social and blogs, you could be sharing
Mm,
emails to say, well, here's a link to my latest blog, news story about this. I think market updates, anything to do with what's going in the market is always really well received. So when we send out our quarterly newsletter, the first thing I do is write a market update. That's always the most clicked on. So
that's it.
you can actually see which articles are the most clicked on. That's always the most clicked on visited one. I think reminders as well about mortgage rates coming to an end or protection reviews. They're really good ones. If you're doing
Mhm.
any kind of campaigns, you could talk about campaigns on there, referral schemes. Offers, if you're running any kind of offers and things. We've done like an Amazon campaign in the past. So lots of different things you
There's
could be
loads
talking
of,
about. Yeah, you can add little testimonials in there. You, there's
and this
the
is,
content's never ending.
I want Karen to give that massive list there because there's no rhyme or reason. There's no, sorry, not rhyme or reason. There's no set rules to put in the email. If you want to
No.
put a photo of all the staff's dogs in there to show your personality, do it. If
Yeah.
you want to talk about very, very in-depth market analysis, do it. You know your client base better than anyone. And especially like Karen said, if you split down your audience
Yeah.
between an older generation and more younger
Yeah.
people might be more well received to receive social media posts. And I say this to our clients, if you are doing social media, don't just keep it for social media. Go and
Use
create
it.
a
Yeah.
blog off the back of it. Put one thing in email marketing, you can only put GIFs, you can't put full videos. And what you do is you almost put like a link to the Instagram post or the
Yeah.
Facebook post. So exactly what Sarah there, yeah. So sorry, Karen said there, utilize your
Yeah.
social media content in those emails, most
Yeah.
definitely. So we've now logged into MailChimp, we've created an email, we've got an audience. I'm now ready to send it. Would you say there's a best time to send an email?
So for financial services, well, so depending on the sector, really.
Okay.
But yeah, so for different sectors, sending at different times. So, for example, retail, it's probably better to send like ASOS, for example, might send at weekends, whereas financial services, it's better to send. We find Tuesdays and Wednesdays work really well, and I
Okay.
always tend to send around mid-morning.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and
Oh,
that's
okay. That's
kind of been
interesting.
our sort of sweet spot. We've tested sending at different times. One thing I will say is over like Christmas holidays, Easter holidays, school holidays, we tend to try not to send if we're doing a new campaign or something. We try not to send during that time. We actually made a mistake. As I say, it's all test and learn. We
Yeah.
made a mistake earlier this year in April, sending a campaign out over the Easter period, and it didn't get as good open rate or response as previous year when we didn't send it over Easter. And we do think that that's because people are not often there, they're on holidays and elsewhere. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, so there's definitely things
That's
to consider
interesting
there.
because you'd have thought when you sat on the sun lounger or you're away, you're out and about, you'd have more time to read those things. But I suppose,
That's exactly what we thought, and which is why we
yeah.
thought we'll send it and we'll test it. But it just worked out that moment that email just didn't
So do you think, and
resonate.
this is speculation, but do you think because it's something quite serious, your mortgage and your protection, that people almost need to be in work mode?
I also think if you are sitting on your sun lounger, the last thing you want to do is then call at your mortgage company, don't you? So
Yeah.
you probably think, oh, I'll do that next week, but then forget about it. So
Mm,
yeah, it is all trial and error, and there is no right or wrong. The subject line is the most important because if the subject
okay.
line captures somebody and they read it and they open it, then that is the most important thing.
And
Probably
how?
more important than when you send it, I would say, in my
Oh,
opinion.
okay.
Because if the
Right.
subject line doesn't, and they're like, oh, awful, they'll just delete it, whether they want to read it or not. If it's a really good subject line, it's a catchy, not too long, try and keep them quite short, and they can clearly see who it's from, then
Mhm.
that's you're more likely for them to open it.
How do you come up with a catchy subject line? Is it something that you need to be creative, or is it again testing and learning?
I think test and learn and just try different ones. You can go down the route of A/B testing, which is quite complex, and I'm not
Hmm.
recommending that to anyone that's started. But you'll send out a subject line to Group A and send out exactly the same email but a different subject line to Group B, and you can see
Hmm.
which one performs the best. I would just recommend trialing different ones and
Hmm.
making sure that you get, and you can see by your analytics, and you'll know if you start to get responses and emails and leads in which ones are working well.
Oh, awesome. And in terms of the sub, sorry, I saw some. I was just thinking, I saw something the other day. It said the best ever subject line that got the most open rate was actually just putting the person's first name,
Yeah, I was
and it,
about to say names, make it more
yeah,
personalised, and more personalised emails get a better response. So if you put Karen, your mortgage rate's ending or whatever it is, it's highly likely to get a more open rate than if it's just your mortgage rate is ending.
your mortgage rate. And
Yeah,
this is when you use something like MailChimp. If you import the data of first name, surname, email address, you can use what
It will
I don't
do
know if
that
they're
for
called the same
you. Yeah.
dynamic fields of just put name and it will pull
Yeah.
through that person's name. So it, as you
Yes.
said, it's personalized. Last thing on the content, and this is probably what a lot of people are asking when they're listening to this, is should they use AI tools like ChatGPT to write the content for the email, or is it better to use something that's written by the owner of the company or the mortgage broker?
You can't just rely on AI. It has to be. And don't get me wrong, I use it, I love it, but you can't just completely copy and paste it. You've
Mhm,
got to change it and edit it because it just won't make sense sometimes.
mhm.
And you do need to put some of your own. You need to make it relevant for your company and who you're
Yep.
talking to. And I just wouldn't recommend just completely copying what AI like spits out because it just
Mhm.
doesn't always
Doesn't make
make sense.
sense.
And you can see, I know when it's been written. I see emails or I see some marketing because I work in marketing, but I can see when it's been written by AI. And I think consumers will start to actually clock onto
Oh,
that over the next few years. You can see the words, and I'll say, well, no, that's been written by AI. So you've just got to be a bit careful and
yeah.
humanize it and make it sound your tone of voice because we've got a certain tone of voice. AI doesn't know what our tone of voice is, and it won't
Mm,
write in that style. So you do have to go through and change a couple of words here and there.
yeah,
But don't get me wrong, they're brilliant to give you a basis to start in an
that's it.
email, but just edit them.
Yeah, edit them. And the other thing is, from a compliance point of view, again, guys, if you're listening from a compliance point of view, some of your networks may request that they see the email
Yeah,
before you send it out. So always be really careful. And this is the thing, ChatGPT is great, but when it comes to financial services, it's very they don't write in the same way as you would because they're
yeah,
not really designed to give advice on financial
no,
services. So they're very, very restrained in what they say. So that's why I'd say it's always best to put your personal point of view. And look, people when they pick up the phone to you, they want to hear your voice and your tone when they pick up the phone. So why
yeah,
not do the same in the email? Try and adopt that throughout anything, any communication that you do. Have it consistent. That would be my tip.
definitely.
Awesome. So, if anybody does want to reach out, Karen, where's the best place for them to have a chat with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Karen Basnett. So yeah, I'm more than happy to take any questions or have a chat with
Awesome.
anybody if they want any support on it. So yeah, definitely.
Fab. Well, you've given us so much value on here, and I think some of the top tips on here, the subject line, I didn't even have that in the agenda of this email. So I'm really glad that you brought that out. That's fantastic. And go and check out tools like MailChimp. Go and check out the other one. What was the other one? Sorry, called
Brevo.
Brevo. Go and check out Brevo as well. But as a thank you, we like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice. Which charity would you like us to make the donation to?
So New Homes are currently raising money for the St Giles Hospice. So if you could donate to that, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
We will. Well, Karen, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on,
you
and I'm
so
sure
much for
we'll
having
have
me
you on
on.
again.
Yeah.
We'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk through different marketing strategies in the future. But that has
Yeah, of
been
course.
so
I'd love
useful.
to.
I've learned a lot, so I'm sure everybody else is. So, Karen, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.